time right here.
Yes.
All right. And I'm Michael Miller, and our friend Rabbi Yossi Harlig of the Chabad of Kendall and Pinecrest is here to share some wisdom with us. And it's been a while since you were here. All right.
Correct. The world changed since then?
Yeah. So let's talk. Yeah. So let's talk about Passover.
Correct. Yeah. So Passover, which camera? This camera, that camera? Come on.
Let's see.
The middle camera? Okay.
Hey, Tommy, which one should be staring at?
Right there in the middle for right.
Oh, okay.
For the middle right now. See, the producers tell us where to look. Yes, so we're very excited. It's a very exciting time. The holiday of Passover for Jewish people, it's the most special time of the year.
Sorry. Okay. Hey, folks, I'm just sharing this right now.
What?
Okay. We're good. All right. Let's go.
My talk. Yes. So tomorrow night is the holiday. Not tomorrow night. Sorry, Saturday night starts the holiday of Passover.
We're having a good time.
What's going on?
So we've known the rabbi for years.
This feels like I'm in my synagogue. No one's. Yes. Thank you.
We have our audience over there.
You have Grant Miller in the room. All
right. So Passover's coming up.
Right. Passover is supposed to be a fun holiday, a joyous holiday. I know in many homes it's a lot of stress before Passover because there's a lot to prepare. What's going on in the background?
We're just trying to have a good time. Yeah. Tommy and Grant over there.
Why did we let Grant into the office?
Hey, by the way, I want to thank our sponsor of the show, University Credit Union. Thank you, Michael Welch and the team at University Credit Union. And folks, thank you very much for your support.
Grant, when your teacher would start talking, you would find things to do because it was distracting, right? So as soon as the rabbi starts talking, everyone else says.
Of course, you raise your hand and you interrupt.
Okay, take three. Michael and Grant, you want to know about Passover? Did you grow up having a Passover Seder?
Yes, we are.
You
yes.
had a
No, coming up.
When you were growing up?
No.
No Passover Seder?
Never.
Zero.
Raised it as
oh
Unitarian.
My God! This food. If you would have known this food,
I know I would have been gone a long time ago.
Yeah. Let me make a disclaimer. You don't have to drink Manischewitz wine to
okay.
Passover Seder. I think Manischewitz wine. Some people like it. A lot of people don't. A lot of good kosher wine. But anyway, let's talk about Passover. Passover is one of the biblical holidays.
Can you move the microphone a little closer to the? Okay. There you go. Okay.
It's one of the biblical holidays where it talks about when the Jewish people were slaves over 3,000 years ago in Egypt, and they were slaves over 200 years. The last 80 years were very, very difficult. And Moses, God revealed himself to Moses and told them to take the Jewish people out. Moses came to Pharaoh, and Pharaoh said no, and God said, I'm going to send the 10 plagues, and we all know the 10 plagues of blood and frogs and darkness. And after that, the death of the firstborn, Pharaoh said, now you go. Because Pharaoh was scared that he was going to die. A lot of times, till it comes to you, you're not that concerned. And then the Jewish people left Egypt. And before they left Egypt, they took a little flour, water, mixed it together. And they had made the matzah, which is the shmura matzah, the handmade matzah, which we try to actually eat by the Seder. Versus the matzah you buy in the store is machine made. And this is shmura matzah, round matzah made in Israel. And it's a very special matzah to have by the Seder. If anyone would like, who's watching it, you call our office. We have the special matzah, and we're happy to give it to you as a gift. Then you eat by the Seder, eat the matzah. And God told Moses the reason why you're leaving Egypt is we're going to make you free, and you're going to go to Mount Sinai and get the Torah and become a Jewish nation. So Passover is again re-celebrating it. Now you may wonder, but that happened 3,000 years ago, Rabbi. Could we get a little more with the program? And what do we care about 3,000 years ago? But in Jewish philosophy, Jewish belief is that whatever happened 1,000 years ago is really a message for us today, and we can relive the same story. What happened in Egypt? The Jews were slaves. They had no freedom, and they were freed. The same exact thing is we have things that we're slaves to. We can be slaves to to certain weaknesses that we have, and certain laziness, and everyone can think of the things that they're slaves for. The holiday message is we have to learn how to break out and become free. Whatever we were used to a year ago, we got to move it up another notch, and also recommit ourselves to our relationship with God. So Passover is an exciting holiday. It's also all around the children. We try to get the children involved, and it's very important for Jewish tradition.
My wife Susan set the table last week.
Right.
She I don't know if that's a tradition, I don't remember, but she wanted to start getting in that space in her head. And so here we are. It's just a couple days away. And so Passover is the holiest of the holidays. Is that right?
Yeah, we say it's like you have children. Who's your favorite child? They're all favorite. Every holiday is special, but in a way, Passover is the kickoff because that's when we became a Jewish nation after leaving Egypt. We weren't the official nation until we went to Mount Sinai. So that really kind of kicks off the cycle of the holidays.
So before I forget, and I have ADD, and so does the brother Grant who's walking around.
Right.
We put out a special section honoring women and Women's History Month, and your wife had a story that was there, and it was written by your daughter, and I received a very nice phone call and to thank me, and it was really to thank those women who stood up in all these years to make a difference, and certainly you and your family are making a difference, not just in the religious community, but with friendship circle.
But the truth is, the women play a very big role in Passover. Just like you said, your wife set up the table a week ago. If our family's going to rely on us to get the house ready for Passover, they're in big trouble. You know what it is? So the women, my wife, my daughter, when she runs her home, they do all the heavy lifting. Basically, preparing the house, cooking all the food, setting the tone for the home. But it's not just for today's days, but it was also in the time of Egypt. When Moses came to the Jewish people and says, you know what, we're going to leave Egypt. And they said, leave Egypt. At least in Egypt, we have meals. At least in Egypt, we have a bed. We're going to go to the desert. I mean, who's watching over us? So he said you have to have faith in God. And that's why the matzah is also called bread of faith. You have to have faith in God. That's one of the reasons why we say the story, the exodus of Egypt, on a daily basis in prayer. But the men were saying, come on, we're going to go to Egypt and God is really going to go to the desert and God is really going to watch us? How do we know? And it says the women were the ones who encouraged the men. The women were the ones who had faith. It says, you got to have faith in God. You got to have faith that God is going to be with us. You see, that was one of the reasons why there were 10 plagues. A lot of people wonder, why are the 10 plagues? Why couldn't God just send a tsunami? Boom. Listen, we had this little virus that came out and stopped the whole world. God could have sent a little corona there and that's it. We could have all left. But the reason is because each one of these plagues reminds us that not only God created the world, but God is involved in the world. And the women are just like the women are the powerhouse of the Chabad and the friendship circle, and your house is your home. It's the women is the driving force. And I'm going to say this on the record.
Okay.
Are the driving force behind
it.
A
couple of years ago, there was an event at the JCC, and you had a small role, and your wife was the one that really, I forget the event in particular. It was the first time I saw her in action, how she was able to get groups of people to listen to her and to follow and to create programs for themselves and for their children. It's really significant how women, left to their own, all right, will succeed, all right? And I see that over and over and over again.
It's interesting. We had started having a little bit of discussion. A lot of times people have the misconception that in the traditional community, the women play a very second role. They don't go to the Torah, and different conversations. Not that this is a program to talk about it now, but I said actually, if you're really looking at the women, have the most important role in our family life, because Judaism. People think Judaism is all about the synagogue. No, Judaism is more about the home than the synagogue. It's more about the home. Synagogue is only a minor part. Going and pray. Some people enjoy praying. Some people don't enjoy praying. But mostly it's what happens in the home and how we're raised.
15 years ago, I'm not sure who bought it, whether it was my wife or we went to Palm Beach, and it was the Women of Valor. And many times at your house, I got the opportunity to read that. And it's really paying homage to the relationship that exists between women and the family, and how they keep that together. And we had the pleasure of having your daughter on the show, and at such a young age, she's not just mature. She has this wisdom that belies her age, right? And I know you know that, right? And she's just narrow focus and trying to help people accomplish what they want to get done. So on that note, what do we want to get done today, right here?
What do we get done in this?
Yes, as far as Passover.
Correct. So one of the things we love is education, people learning things. So many times people say, well, I never knew. I just finished a course on Journey of the Soul, talking about, you're not supposed to cremate, different things you do by Shiva. And people saying, Rabbi, I wish I would have learned it a long time ago. So I think every time we go to say that, you said in the beginning of this show that your wife already sat at the table a week ago. A lot of times what happens is we show up to the Seder and then we don't think about the Seder a minute before. And then we go through the Seder and we barely focus. And then we leave and, okay, now what? We don't look at it as another holiday passes. We want to have the message of the holiday. What is this going to give us? What message could I take this year that really could have an impact? And I, want to share one of the most impactful stories that I think a lot about. That I know, I'm not sure if I ever shared this on the show. And they say, a joke a rabbi can only repeat once in 2 years because people remember a good joke. A good story you can repeat once a year because stories people remember. An interpretation, the verse of the Bible, you could say twice in the same speech. You know why?
Why?
Because people are not listening the first time, so you could say twice in the same speech.
What'd you say?
See? Prove my point, right? See? And so I want to share a story that I think I share this on Pesach. It's a Passover story that I think you would really relate to it. And maybe whoever's listening to this could share this story at their Seder. You want to ask me a question before I share the story?
Go ahead.
So part of the highlights of Passover is, those who serve the Seder, is the middle of the Seder, we open up the door to welcome Eliyahu Hanavi. An angel comes in, Elijah, and he comes in, he drinks from the wine, he blesses the home. So everyone would love to see him coming, right? Would you love to see an angel?
Amen.
Would love to see an angel. Look around your house, you'll see your wife and children. No, so you want to see an angel. So he comes to his rabbi. He says, Rabbi, how could I see this angel? He says, the rabbi says, if you go to this and this home for the Seder, he gave him a name of a person's family in another town. During that Seder, you're going to be able to see the angel Elijah. So he said, great. He goes, packs up. He says, but on one condition, I need to take food and clothes and bring it to the home and knock on their door 10 minutes before the holiday starts. Okay, so he goes, takes food, clothing. This is in the olden days. You can knock on someone's door. Today, you knock on the door. You call the police. He knocked on the door. He was expecting to go to a holy rabbi's house. It was a poor man's home. He knocks on the door. He says, can I come to the Seder? They said, sorry, you can't. We don't have food. We don't have clothes. He says, don't worry, I brought you everything. He comes in. The kids are so excited to have food. They have a beautiful Seder. Comes to the part of the Seder. We open the door. The angel's supposed to come in. Doesn't see anything. He's shocked. Here he came here. He went out of his way. And now he doesn't see anything. So he goes back to his rabbi and says, what happened? The rabbi says, you sure you didn't see the angel? He says, no. He says, now I want you to go back now for the last days of Passover. And you'll see the angel's going to come then. So Elijah's going to come? Yeah. He says, now I want you to take food, but now I want you to wait till 5 minutes after the holiday starts. You know the story?
No.
So he waits 5 minutes after the holiday starts. He goes to the house. He goes up to the door. He's about to knock on the door. And he hears the kids crying to the mom and dad. And they say, Mom, Dad, we're hungry. We don't have food. What are we going to do? So the mother told me, you remember a week ago before the Seder, we had no food and an angel came to our house and brought us food? Maybe an angel will come again. And then he understood what his rabbi was teaching him. You want to see an angel? You need to become the angel. You want to see Elijah? You need to become Elijah. And that's when we turn to everyone by the Seder. We say, everything in the Seder is not just, a piece of bread. This matzah reminds us of the faith. You have to have faith that God is with us. The Eliyahu Navi is also reminds us that who are we an angel for someone else? Who's the angel in your life? And who are we an angel for?
And we never know when that's going to happen.
100, yes.
So I was visiting happened to be a female doctor, and I knew that she was Russian. So she says to me, where are you from? I said, from here. And she said to me, no, where are you from? And that, in an instant, I answered, I said, I'm from Ukraine. And she says, I knew it, all right? But when she said that, it resonated, where are we from inside, all right? And when you understand where you've been and how that lives with you and the lessons that we learn, and sometimes when we need to be reminded of those, and certainly that's what the matzah does, that's what the table setting does.
Correct.
So there it was, all day, all night for a week. And I asked Susan, why did you do that? And I'm not quite sure if her answer was, but now I know she wanted to have that presence for at least that week, rather than, okay, it's Saturday, hurry, set the table. Right. Hurry, set the table. Okay, we're done. Wash it, go home. Right? So this really sort of set the stage. It's almost as though, when the candles are lit and there's a nice smell, even if it's just from the fire and from the wax, it does something to each of us, and it reminds us of who we are and what we're doing.
What do you think holidays are all about? No matter what holiday you celebrate, what's the purpose of holidays? The purpose of holidays is to stop in your tracks and focus on something else. We get so caught up in our day-to-day life, we never stop. So now comes a holiday, you see the candles, the challah, whatever religion you are, we're celebrating Passover, you stop. It's a blessing if we learn how to stop and take in the moment, and how does it apply to us. Now it's interesting, if you ask 2 years ago Passover versus last year Passover versus this year Passover, I'm sure that'll be your next question to me. I know how you
Yes, exactly. There you go. So tell us, Rabbi.
Passover 2 years ago, our life was going on like a typical life, whatever we were up to. I was running the Chabad, having a big community public Seder. There were 150 people in a room that only 100 people could fit in. Another person comes, and some people always remember the last moment. Oh, it's Passover, and we hate turning people away. And everyone was so caught up in their world, they weren't thinking about life, thinking about all the other things. Last year Passover, we were in a culture shock. It's like the first holiday right after COVID, and we're not going to be with all our family, so people couldn't even grasp it, and most people were doing Zoom with their kids. I think this year Passover, a lot of families already, so a lot of people are vaccinated, people have their immediate family with them, so it's feeling a little bit different. But I think the message will resonate this year more than any other year, because Passover is about going out of your comfort zone, going out of your Egypt, believing that there's a God in the world. If I asked you a year ago and a year later where we're going to be financially, you see, we did okay financially. Companies, some people didn't, but there are a lot of people that are fine. A lot of us went out of our comfort zone. We had to do things that we never expected to do, from wearing a mask. We were talking before the show. Whenever we would see someone with a mask, we say, oh my God, what's with this guy? And now we learned to use a mask. We learned to wash our hands before. We learned to do Zoom. We learned to adjust. We all went out of our comfort zone. We all say, wow, we were able to do this. So I think the message of Passover will resonate even more, that this year is the message that, listen, we got to go out of our own, every generation, we got to go out of our own Egypt. Everyone who's celebrating Passover went out of their comfort zone this year. And we can't forget that point.
When we look at these 3 years, meaning Passover from 2 years ago, right? And then last year now, as you were talking, I sort of see that we're all out on the beach and the tsunami comes and it devastates us, right? And then the tsunami goes away. And then you're starting to rebuild, which was this one. Next year, well, if you do, figuratively speaking, and maybe literally, we're going to be back on the beach. But when we were on that beach in 2000, whatever that year was, we had no clue, right, that this was going to happen. None, zero. And there we were enjoying things. People were out all the time and doing all those things. And we have, as people, learned what we need to do to navigate this disease. And when we see where people are now becoming a little, like, do I wear a mask? Do I not wear a mask? I've had shots. Most of our people here at the office, and this is glass between us, and we see that people are a lot more relaxed than before. But we also recognize that when this trauma, the immediate trauma of that tsunami hitting all of us, when that's over and we realize, gee, we survived and it's getting back to whatever routine is there, that the trauma that we experience is going to be expressed a lot, right? When we realize we're not in this self-protection. And so we know that people, whether the little kids or their parents or the adults, are going to have this trauma, right? Which may be expressed on Saturday, which is, it's getting back to the way that we like it with our children and with our families. And so on one hand, it's a celebration, but on the other hand, it's a looking back to where we were thousands of years ago. And as a matter of fact, a year ago.
Right.
And so even as I talk to you, I can feel it's very emotional as we look to getting on the other side of this.
Right. And it's also a place where people could realize, when you're a person of faith, it's a lot easier to go through, challenging. What's going to be tomorrow, you don't know. You look at the people in Egypt, that's what happened. They were going into the desert, they were putting themselves in a situation they were going into a situation, they had no idea what it is, and Moses said, it's all going to work out. God is going to be with you. God is involved. That's why this is a point that we, as a person with faith, a person who believes in God and believes that God is involved, that you can't answer me everything. Why does it happen? But I definitely know he is there. He's with us. It makes the process a lot easier. And you can't grab faith when it happens. You have to have it. It's much more helpful when you have it before you go. So Passover reminds us again that not only God created the world, God is still involved with us.
I know there were people such as Bill Gates, and a lot of epidemiologists have been telling us for years these problems that are going on. And we were interviewing the mosquito director from the county who's talked about Zika last year or a couple of years ago. And we had an infectious disease doctor that talks about all these outbursts of diseases that affect us. But this one caused all of us to have an experience almost the same, all right, for a year, all right, plus maybe a year and a half by the time this gets through.
We were all in the same storm, different boats, but the same storm.
Yes, and as we look and when we look at it, people's needs are different, right? We know that a lot of needs were being met by Zoom, and may continue that because you have access before is unacceptable. I see down in Cutler Bay, if you can't get out of your home, they will send somebody to your home to give you the shot, right?
Wow.
Yes, and so when you look at these type of changes, things that 2 years ago we thought would be not possible, when we look that over 50% of doctors' visits, especially the follows up, are not in the office anymore. That continues to change so many things, and so I wonder. That's Marta Perez, school board member, and Cheryl. I forget Cheryl's last name over there. When we look at the changes that will probably be around for a long time, to where before we thought it was terrible, nobody could get together. But the reality is we have two audiences now. You have the people that are going to be at Chabad, and you're going to have the people that can't make it. They are going to be able to access it through Zoom or some other way. So let's talk about are there going to be services at Chabad?
So we have prayers, and again, it's all COVID. People have to wear masks, and you have to stay social distancing. You have to wash your hands before. So we have a group of people that come to pray on Saturday, and we'll come pray. We send out an email who would be comfortable coming to Chabad for a Passover community seder, which we always like to offer. A lot of people don't have families, or it's hard for them to make a seder. Years past, we were always sold out, and people. So we offered this year to do outdoors. And most people said they're still uncomfortable. So we're not offering it. But if someone doesn't have a place to Seder, we are arranging for them a place to go that we are arranging. We're arranging also giving out matzahs. We also forgot to bring a full Seder plate with all the items that you need in the Seder plate. So some people, it's hard for them to go out. They can't make it. So we're still providing those services. So if anyone still needs it, in the next, between now and Shabbos.
Part of the Passover service is to take the salt water and you dip the
shank bone and the horseradish and everything. Yeah.
And there's a time that you talk about the plagues.
Correct.
Who knew?
Right. That Michael Miller.
Who knew?
Correct.
Right. That we would have that really up close experience of being faced with this disease and the challenge of staying alive, and for a lot of people lost their lives, and it certainly gives us all a new perspective. And I'm sure it'll be demonstrated come Saturday night. So, can we talk about Friendship Circle for a few minutes?
Yes.
Okay. Friendship Circle is an organization that's run by your wife, and it is for people that kids that need help, social help, that are in the what's the term?
You say on the spectrum.
In the spectrum.
It could be anywhere in the spectrum.
Right. So it's been a little bit limited this year, but next year, or maybe by Christmas, all right, a time that you have lots of local teenagers that go into local high schools that learn about giving and helping these kids, which helps their parents, which help the families, and you're going to be adding on. You're going to be building in your property.
Right. So we're at a very exciting stage now. When COVID hit, we had to kind of put the brakes on. This is a segment of the community that really was affected by COVID. You were affected. Imagine these children. And these are children on the spectrum that don't have friends. In general, they have a hard time with friends, but now tell them to talk to someone on Zoom. And the parents, imagine if you have a child at home, you didn't have this, you didn't have to deal with this. Maybe your daughter had to deal with it, your grandchildren, that if the class shuts down, if they're on Zoom, the kids are home all day on computers. Kid on the spectrum, what is he going to do? The mother would drop him off at school for 6 hours, and then they didn't have to, on a daily basis. Every minute feels like an hour. So they really had this challenge. So we started the programs, and we have in person. We have some of them on Zoom, but a lot of them have underlying issues, so they're uncomfortable coming. But we were in the middle of a campaign to build a beautiful campus on 87th and 112th. That will be for the Chabad is building it, and we'll also run our Friendship Circle programs there. And we were in the middle of the campaign. We are pretty close to getting our permits. We already passed the zoning. We hope in the next 6 months we're able to start construction and build a state-of-the-art, beautiful campus down
That's
there.
tremendous.
It's been a long road, and people are really stepping up because people understand the importance of it, and people really want to give to it. So we've been able to raise.
And when you help those kids and their parents, you're helping them, and you're helping the community, and you're helping build a future for them, right? And a future for the community. And I've certainly become a little bit more aware of people that are on the spectrum, and more compassionate than before, and more understanding. And by virtue of that, it made me more understanding of people that are not in the spectrum. Like, it's just the way that they are.
Correct.
Right? And you work with people, and you try to make the best of that.
But I want to tie into something you just said before. Rabbi always ties. We always know how to tie everything in. You mentioned about teaching the volunteers. Passover is the holiday. It's all about the kids. Your grandchildren are going to be with you.
Yes.
So it says don't start too late. The kids need to be involved because the kids are the future. And if Passover is about the Jewish nation, you want the kids to get involved. That's one of the things I love. One of the highlights of Friendship Circles. We are creating a generation of young adults that understand the power of volunteering, understand the power, how good it feels to make a difference in other people's lives, and they understand that when they make a difference in someone else's life, not only it's helping them, it's helping the volunteer more than it's helping the person. And they also became more aware. And I could tell you countless stories of, like you said, what it means to be on the spectrum, and they're more sensitive. They become advocates for them. They went into that profession. It's changing a generation, this program.
Yes. We have 2 minutes left. Would you like to do a short prayer, or in Hebrew? Would you like to do that? Can you do that?
A short prayer, of course. We always do a short prayer.
Okay.
That's
and we're going to wrap it up right after that.
Correct. So I just want to conclude with 2 points. You always say, so what's the message? So Passover is not only about, when the rabbi says I'm going to wrap it up, it doesn't mean anything. Passover is not only about, we spoke a lot about freedom. Passover is also about being thankful for what you have. Because a lot of the Seder talks about from slavery to freedom. We always have to be thankful for what we have in life. Sometimes we're only thankful when it's taken away from us. Sometimes we're only thankful, not sometimes, most of the time we're only thankful when it's taken away from us. Most of the time we're thankful in a conscious way only when we're challenged with it. Let's not wait to be challenged. Let's look around the table by the Seder, everyone, and look around, your wife, your children, whoever's there. If they're not with you, think about them and think about how many blessings we have in our life and how thankful we have to be for the blessings we have in life. And I'll end with a prayer that we start off actually in the morning, which is the prayer is Moda Ani Lefanecha Melachai V'Kayam Shechazarta Bi Nishmasi B'Chem L'Rabba Munesecha, which means we thank God for returning our soul. We go to sleep at night, and the soul goes up and gets re-energized and comes down. And having faith in me and bringing me back down into this world. What does it mean having faith? Because a lot of times we don't do our mission, what we were supposed to. It's like you go to the bank and they say, okay, give me another loan, but you still didn't pay back your old loan. So we didn't do good enough. We may have not done a great enough job yesterday, but if God gave us back our soul, if God gave you your soul, it means that today we have a purpose and a meaning, that God wants us to change the world. And God has faith in us. The only thing we need is to have faith in ourselves and the power and unlimited power and energy that we have. I want to wish you a happy Passover.
And to you too, Rabbi.
And God bless you.
All right, thank you.
Thanks for inviting me again.
Okay, and our friend and guest is Rabbi Yossi Harlig, Chabad of Kendall and Pinecrest. Folks, have a great day.